people owe money to the IRS or they haven't filed, how bad can it get? What can they do to you?
I've been getting these letters for the last few
We had
years.
progressive audits for 04, 05, 06, 07, 3 or 4 years.
Well, it added up to $189,000.
It can get pretty bad, Doug.
To the IRS, they wouldn't leave us alone. Came to our offices, they came to our home.
I left my home state of California to move back to Texas.
They're going to seize your property, your assets.
I found myself just backed into a corner and I didn't know what else to do.
They're scary. I mean, they work on a pretty unequal bargaining power position. It takes me back to a client that we had not too long ago. He had multi-millions in liability, and we settled that case for $8,000.
You're kidding.
I saw Travis come on the TV one day and I'm like, I'm gonna call that guy.
When the IRS showed up my front door, he's the first one I thought of.
I'm Travis Watkins of Travis Watkins Tax. If you're a businessman in any of the 50 states and you're suffering from a tax liability 6 figures or higher to the IRS or to your state, then this movie is for you.
He didn't lie, he didn't beat around the bush. He told us, this is what you're gonna get, this is how I'm gonna do it.
The phone rang. He said, hey, John, we have finally received approval for your offer in compromise.
They saved me. I mean, I wouldn't know what to done without hiring them. I would have been in a lot of trouble.
That was the best news I think I've ever had in my entire life.
Tax problems are a unique thing that has affected my family specifically. I've seen the pain, the devastation, the frustration, the sleepless nights, and I know what you're going through. We help businessmen get back on their feet, come up with an actionable, customized plan to get them back into the tax system and out of the problem so it never happens again. If that's what you want, then we're the team for you. But you don't know that yet. I want you to settle in right now. I want you to grab a pen and some paper because there's going to be some very important technical things that you're going to want to write down. So in the meantime, sit back, enjoy the film.
Have an LLC, have an EIN, didn't spend any money, didn't make any money, you still have to do a tax return for that. You still have to. They're expecting a 0 return.
The IRS can't just throw you in jail simply for owing taxes alone. Prisons of the mind, prisons of relationships and solitude.
That with that tax burden hanging over you, there was no real incentive to start anything.
They got their thumb on you, you know? You can't go buy a vehicle, you can't buy a house, you can't do nothing. It's terrible.
We have seen taxpayers from all walks of life go through the very same pain that you're going through, and they made the conscious decision that something was way more important than the fear that they're experiencing right now. We've seen the other side of it.
Whenever they come in, always, they are at their wits' end. They don't know what to do. There's always an option for them.
Your desire to crush it in business will return. You'll be able to have a bank account again with your very own name on it. You won't have to look over your shoulder anymore.
I felt like someone was in my corner after I talked to Dr. Travis and his team.
You will be able to get back to life with your kids, with your spouse. Things are all going to change, and they're going to change for the better. So I can tell you all these things, and I can tell you how it's going to be. But at the end of the day, when there's massive problems, you have to take massive action. If you feel like you're staring into the abyss of this tax problem and there's no way out, we are the light at the end of that tunnel.
You may not think that these resolution options pertain to you as a taxpayer, but we find a way and get you in the best possible resolution for you.
You're not the first person to go through this problem, and you're not going to be the last person to go through this problem. When you use us, you'll get a good night's sleep again. We'll get you back in the tax system and save you some money in the process if that's available for you. Most tax resolution companies provide a Band-Aid type of approach to tax problems. Our goal is to get you back into the system. We have a tax preparation department, attorneys, have bookkeepers on staff. First of all, clears that hurdle of getting the tax returns filed, a profit and loss statement, getting all the financials ready. That's what you're going to have at these levels. We are going to have you in ongoing bookkeeping as well. We don't want you to get back in that problem again. We want to put you back on the horse, and we want you to experience growth once again. Thousands of cases, hundreds and hundreds of clients just like you.
They did more than what they said they were going to do.
It's been a total life changer for us, so we're very fortunate.
Good night's sleep again, right from that very first consultation.
God brought us to Travis because there was no other solution.
It's no accident that you're watching this film at this very moment in your history. So, we're a few minutes into the movie, and you're still here, so that means that something that's being said, something that you're watching, may be resonating with you right now. Maybe you're thinking, this could be the team to help me find the light at the end of the tunnel. And if that's the case, no more procrastination. Let's just hit the button below and talk to one of my team members about getting you some relief right now.
The Biden administration, they're now talking about giving even more power to the IRS to make banks a tool in the IRS arsenal. It would force banks to automatically and directly report to the IRS and to the government all of their customers' money flows going in and out of all of their bank accounts and maybe brokerage accounts too. We've never seen this before. They already get our wage information. Do they need this information?
As we speak, the IRS is planning to unleash 87,000 new employees out into the field. They have been specifically tasked to close this thing called the tax gap. The word on the street is that it's about $1 trillion. What's that mean to you? That means you're going to be highly outmatched. And I hate to fearmonger or anything else like that, but when you owe 6 figures or more, IRS revenue officers don't just take your case lightly. You must have an advocate that's on your side. They want your bank accounts. They want to know where you bank. They want to know who works for you. They want to know who pays you. And are you ready for that onslaught of a highly trained IRS official to come at you with the full force and authority of the United States government? You've got to take action before that person from the IRS, before that new collection employee at the IRS gets assigned to your case. You have a little bit of time to do some planning, but not much. Let us be your voice. One of my first memories was when I was 6 or 7 years old. We were at a church carnival. They were walking some horses around this carnival. I was, for some reason, alone. I just saw a break in the action there, and I ran over to the biggest horse that I could find over there and just jumped right up on it. This horse took off. Hit my head. Last thing I remember is just everything going black. It was just I just remember as I was coming to, my dad raced over. The first thing I remember is he picked me up and dusted me off and threw me right back up on that same horse. I remember him distinctly saying that if you don't get back up on this horse, then you're going to be afraid of him your whole life. That was my dad. He was always trying to make sure that you face your fear. I saw throughout my life that that's really what he did. He started going off to foreign countries. He was a missionary of sorts. He'd take kids back to the U.S. from foreign countries, places in Africa. He would be in another country for weeks, sometimes months at a time. It wasn't until I was in college that I had an opportunity to really kind of get shoulder to shoulder with him. I got to go a couple of summers to Haiti, early 90s. It was a really bad time in that country's existence. Gunshots going off at night, all kinds of political unrest going on there. I was 19 or 20. We did get to spend a lot of time, luckily at night, together. He shared with me some things that I never really knew about my family. My family is kind of old school. They don't like to talk about weakness, and it was in that environment that my dad, one night, he shared with me, while I knew that my grandfather, I knew that he had been shot. My father told me that he had shot himself. So fast forward a decade and a half, probably later, I was a practicing attorney, going to trial, continuing education courses on tax resolution. This was at a time in America when there was no real such thing as tax resolution. It was you versus the IRS. I was struggling back and forth with, do I want to go all in on tax resolution? It's almost like another light went on. My mom, she told me that my grandfather, reason that he had killed himself was over a tax problem. Ed, my grandfather, he was a hardworking, kind of blue-collar type man. He worked at Armco Steel in Kansas City for over 30 years. He managed over time to get a little bit of money saved up, had bought some rental properties there in Kansas City, and had no real formal background in any of this. He had gotten something in the mail from the IRS. It, in hindsight, I think was just what they call a paper audit. I think at that moment, he panicked. And somewhere in his mind at that point, I think he made a conscious decision that he was worth more to his family dead. That's the worst place you can possibly be in as a man. He went straight to the bank and withdrew everything he had. He walked home and he shot himself. That moment that I found out that story was the moment that everything became clear in my professional life. Taxes have a way of ruining all aspects of your life.
Whether it be luck or fate, finding Travis was a godsend. My nightmare of 3 years with the IRS was now finally coming to an end.
We were relieved that we now had the opportunity to begin working again, begin a business again, and to begin to rebuild our lives.
It's quality over quantity at Travis Watkins. And I truly see that with Travis just because he's in the weeds, I guess you could say. The culture that we've built, everybody is willing to dive in where is needed. They will do an investigation on every single case to make sure that they get handled. And that is the culture that I would always want to be around.
I called them the dream team, and I think that would be very fitting for Travis and the team that he has amassed here.
There's lots of people just like you. They're feeling that same pain. But look, it's not all your fault. The IRS tax code is complex. That tax code has changed one time each day for the last 10 years, 4,000 times in the last decade alone. Not even the IRS itself knows what's going on. So here's the hidden truth. The IRS is going to cut some deals if you or your tax professional can show the IRS that they can't collect the tax that is due from you within the time that they have to collect it, which is generally 10 years. Craft this thing, and if you've got time, in other words, there's no revenue officer on your tail at this moment, or even if there is one, we need to get things in order to show the IRS that they're not going to be able to collect all this money within that period of time. In 2010, the number of IRS offers in compromise that got approved was something like 25%. In 2018, that went up to 41%. And that was without any major financial interruption in America's economy generally. Translation, those numbers are way higher. And they are certainly way higher if you get a competent tax professional to navigate this offer and compromise system for you, put your best foot forward. We're not just gonna blow smoke at you and tell you that you are a offer and compromise candidate simply because you have a pulse. First of all, you've signed a power of attorney with us that allows us to talk to the IRS for you to receive all correspondence so that you don't ever have to mess with them again. You'll also get a complete and comprehensive investigation using the IRS's own record. We get those from the IRS through the Freedom of Information Act. We analyze those things alongside your financials to come up with the very best possible action item for your tax problem. We also have the power to file a lawsuit if anything ever goes south. We not only solve the problem as it exists today, we get you back into the tax system, filing every year, doing your bookkeeping, especially, that's so important. Knowing where the money is going, where it's coming in, and also how much you're gonna owe. On to the complete finish line, even beyond. You have to stay current on your tax filings for 5 full years, or the amount that was forgiven, including penalties and interest, comes rolling back on top of you. So what's that mean? You're gonna have to have help for 5 full years, or all the hard work that we've done is all for nothing. So you may be saying to yourself, does this work? Well, all I can talk to you about there is our results. When offer and compromise is in play, a settlement with the IRS, our average accepted offer is 12 cents on the dollar. That's 88% reduction in what you owe if you are an offer and compromise candidate. So how long is it going to take to get through the process? Well, chances are your tax problem did not crop up overnight, so you can't expect them to go away overnight. I often say that it's going to take less time to get out of the tax problem than it took to get into it. Usually that means about a year. You can add probably about another 6 months to that if we need to do an appeal. And the IRS, full warning, does like to say no, so we do have to take them up on appeal at certain times. You'll have the guarantee, if you hire Travis Watkins Tax, of confidentiality. You'll have the guarantee that we will treat your case like it's the only case in our office. You will have the guarantee that your phone calls will be returned, and you'll also have the guarantee that once you sign a power of attorney with us, 99% of our clients never speak with the IRS again. And that's worth the price of the fare right there in most cases. Wow, you stuck around for the whole movie, and I'm glad that you did. You've seen some stories, you've seen some evidence, some proof of our methods, our techniques in this new way of handling IRS problems. And here's the thing, look, you can't unsee what you've already seen. And now you've got a couple of choices to make. Your first choice, you could do nothing. Keep the status quo. I'm all right, everything's okay with me. I don't need to do anything about this. Maybe the other shoe won't drop. This will go away like some other problems in my life. Or you could take an opposite track. You could make this, rather than a cauldron of fear, you could make it into an anthem of courage. You could take some action and get this thing solved. So right now, while it's fresh on your mind, stop procrastinating, hit that button right below, talk to one of my experienced team members about what Travis Watkins Tax can do for you in getting a good night's sleep again. Look, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.